Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the 50/50 Showcase. This is episode 49, and I'm showcasing Turpentine, or Turpentine. I don't know how you want to pronounce that. But anyway, he is my final epic archetype. He is on the villain side. We're looking at a Night Widow build. That's part of the Seer training, Widow training end of the spectrum. I showed you my Crab Spider, the last video with Tarvos, very blastery type. Well, this guy. He's going to fall in that, I'd say, more stalker realm, at least the way I have him built, than Scrapper. But melee, up in your face, going to be slashing at you with a bunch of claw attacks. He's got a little bit of range as well, but he's relying upon a high defense, stealth, high, movement, mobility, getting in, getting out, that kind of stuff. Let's take a look at the build so you can see what I went for and what you might want to go for if you build one of these. So here you go. One cool thing I like with the epic archetypes on the villain side is you got a much more flexible builds style that you can choose. You can stay, more with the widow side of stuff. You can go to the seer and the psychic attack range stuff. On the crab side of things, you got the bane spiders. That's kind of very brutish, scrappery melee, or you be the crab spiders shooting a lot of range attacks. I want the crabber mine where I was doing more pet kind of thing. So you have a lot of versatility. I like that options on the villain side compared to the hero epic archetypes, where with the Chaldeans you're kind of locked into either triform or human only. I don't think anybody's just running dwarf, or certainly not Nova. There's just not a lot of flexibility there. So I like the villain archetypes because of that. Anyway, let's take a look with the Widow. With a lot of your melee attacks that I've chosen, you're going to see that they have a lot of minus speed, a lot of minus recharge. Let me go ahead and zoom in on a little pop-out window here. So if you take a look, swipe as an example, right, you've got the minus speed, the minus recharge for that. You've got same thing with strike, minus speed, minus recharge as a debuff. You've got that with spin. You've got minus speed, minus recharge. You've got that with eviscerate, another speed recharge debuff. Same thing with lunge. So you've got these different, single target attacks, PB AoE, AoE, spin attack. You've got the little mini cone with eviscerate. But all of it's, up close and personal, and all of it is debuffing speed and recharge. The debuff is pretty solid as well. If you take a look at the actual numbers on this, this is lunge. We're looking at a 30% debuff of recharge. We got a 30% debuff of movement speed. Spin is going to be, we've got a 20% debuff on the recharge. We got a 20% debuff on, move myself out of the way, on the movement speed. So if you start stacking this all up, 20, 30% here and there, you can floor the recharge of at least a single target. You can do a little bit, slowness with eviscerate and spin on a larger group of foes, but mostly it's single target slowing debuff. That's going to be a nice stackable mitigation because you're going to have a lot of defense, which I'll get to in a second. So if you have a high defense, that's going to reduce the amount of incoming damage because they're not hitting you. And then if you also are slowing down the incoming damage because of the recharge debuffs, that's going to give you some more protection as well. So you're relying upon those two things. The big drawback to that is most of that is in melee range, more specifically. And when you see my total numbers, you'll see where I'm coming from. Range, you can't debuff the range as far as speed and recharge because your range attacks don't do that. My ranged attacks that I did choose, I've got, let's see, unlock this. I took, where is it? Dart Burst. So Dart Burst, that has a minus regen, some toxic damage, little cone. And I took Poison Dart, that also has the minus regen. So you're getting, debuffing the enemy's ability to regain health. I don't think the numbers are very high on that one, so it's not too bad. Minus, 25% or so regen there. It's not going to keep them down for very long. 15 seconds isn't bad. But if you're the only person out there debuffing regen, it's not gonna win the day for you. Similar with Dart Burst, you got that minus 25%. So you can do a decent amount of minus regen, but you know, you're not going to be like a defender or corruptor, that sort of thing, throwing out like, you know, poison debuffs. So you have that. It'll help you kill a little bit faster, but again, not gonna make or break the build regardless. Then on the defensive side, you've got a bunch of the move this out of my way here. You've got a bunch of not armors, but they're more just toggle debuffs. So you've got, you know, your defensive training, combat training. You've got your where is it? Oh, a lot of these things are auto on, so you don't even notice the effects of these things. Let me hide this out of my way. There we go. That's what I was trying to do. So you got your combat training, offense and defense. These are auto, always on. You've got your tactical training. That's a, you know, like a maneuver style of toggle. Indomitable Will, that's your own personal shield as far as Mez protection goes. I think it also, yeah, has psionic resistance built into it. You got some more toggles with the training, assault, leadership. These are really just the leadership toggles from the leadership pool. So you've got those three options. Foresight is another auto, some resistance to other controls, plus you got more defense with that one. Mass presence is your stealth. You get some more defense there. That's a toggle. You got mental training. That's another auto power. That's going to give you some speed and recharge and resistance to slow. Mind Link is your big, you know, signature AoE click that's going to give defense and side resistance to you and the rest of the team. And also grab Placate, kind of just as a almost a throwaway power. You'll see how I slotted it in a second. But, you know, overall, you got a bunch of defenses, a bunch of toggles that you're stacking up. And if you can combine that with the minus speed, minus recharge of your attacks, it gives you some decent solid mitigation. If you take a look at the numbers on this guy, pull that up again. You can see these are my numbers I'm looking at right now. Let me shut off Mind Link so I don't have that turned on. So this is not clicked. So my raw, let me turn off Unleash Potential as well, so you can see just the raw flat numbers. So just my toggles and my auto powers that are on, I've got defenses to melee and range, about 50% melee, 30-some% sitting here, and range and AoE. So melee, pretty safe, just, you know, raw. Once I click, you know, Mind Link, that jumps up to 64.8. If I go with Unleash Potential, which is in my Force of Will power set that I took, that kicks me up into the 80-some%. So in melee range, this guy is really well protected with just his stock powers and his stock clicks. The problem is, what I've noticed is taking a lot of ranged attacks, AoE attacks, you know, from downrange coming at you, because, you know, you can't really do anything about it other than dodge out of the way. And so, you know, if your Mind Link and Unleash Potential are on, you're pretty safe because you got like 60-70% of defense to those two things. But if these things are, you know, crashed, they're not clicked at that point, you know, 30-some% against like +4s, you're going to take hits. And you really don't have any other way to mitigate at that point. You don't have any sort of heal that you could use. So you have to, you know, get out of town, or, you know, I'll use Placate perhaps there. I'll use Smoke Grenade in order to debuff to hit, you know, debuff their perception, and I have a lot of mobility, so I just get out of there if I need to. So you have that more stalkery, get in, hit as hard as you can, as fast as you can, and then if you need to, bail. Unlike, you know, Scrapper, you can have more stand in there, toe-to-toe, you know, power. I don't have that with this particular build. All right, so those are kind of the overview of the basic powers that this character has. Now, as far as slotting goes, mainly I was trying to get sort of your stock things. I was shooting for a lot of recharge, a lot of defense, and I threw in some various procs. Not so much the damage procs, but more the defensive procs. So if you kind of look at my choices here, let me turn on pop-ups. You can see this. I've got the Touch of Death, you know, damage, negative damage proc on that one. But overall, this is giving me resistance to some things I don't really have much of. energy negative. You're getting some hit points. You're getting some damage buff. You're getting some smash lethal resist out of that. I put that set in swipe, strike, lunge, and that was it. Those three places right there. So overall, I'm getting extra 7.5% damage. I'm getting some decent like 10-12% resistance to smash lethal. I'm getting some resistance to energy negative. So those numbers are pretty good once I start stacking those things up. You can see those here. 26% or so smash lethal energy negative. So put that on top of your defensive. Sorry, those are defenses. Down here is my resistances. Smash lethal's 23, energy negative 14. It's not going to save you, but it's going to combine with some defense, give you a chance maybe to take an extra hit or two. So I try to, milk as much of those little resistances as I could. I didn't go for just that raw, defense like some people do, trying to cap everything. I usually don't do that on a lot of my builds just because, everybody's doing that, so I'm trying to do something a little bit unique, a little bit different with the builds, trying to experiment and see what else they can do, other ways of surviving. Plus, that usually gets kind of repetitive, redundant. If every build you have is always cap and defense, total recharge, getting a bunch of procs, it's the same build in every character. It gives no thinking. So I don't particularly go for that. And then other than that, trying to do make the character have different options rather than just okay, I'm not going to get hit and I'm going to blast away. All right, then the other thing I'm shooting for here is I've got some debuff strategy going here. So I took a lot of things that give me a chance to give a smorgasbord of debuffs. I've got the minus regen and the minus speed recharge for my attacks, but with Smoke Grenade, I slotted it with the Dark Watchers to beef up its minus to hit because it does minus perception, minus to hit. So if I can throw that out there, take a look at the effects of this, so you can see what I'm looking at. So this thing will debuff about 6% accuracy, well, to hit. So if I'm combining that with, I'm also grabbing, where is it? I took Weaken Resolve over here from the Force of Will set. That's got a nice 375 debuff onto hit. So between those two powers, I can debuff at least one target, 10%, 12%, somewhere's in there from being able to hit me. So that combined with the defense is a nice combo. Plus it has a little debuff here on the defense and the resistance. So it's good for like a hard target, boss level, hero, archvillain, something like that. I just focus down on them with that. Plus the minus regen can then start to add up from my ranged attacks as well. So that's what I'm going for there. Then I just grabbed a bunch of these defensive, global things like, Gift of the Ancients, increased run speed. I took the Impervium Armor Psi Resistance. I've got the same thing with the Aegis, the Psi Resistance proc global for that one. With Indomitable Will, I've got the plus 3%, global defense. I did the same thing with Steadfast Protection. That's in there. What else did we take? We took, I think I've got the scaling. Yeah, I got the scaling resist damage here and combat training from reactive defenses. I've got a couple Luck of the Gamblers thrown in here. Yeah, I got that Luck of the Gamblers stacked 3 times, I think. Yeah, 3 times. I took the Winter's Gift slow resistance. So that is nice to combine with, I think it's, what is it, Foresight also has slow resistance. Or mental training, one of those, yeah. Mental training has slow resistance. So with those two, so mental training, taking a look, you've got minus 40% debuff resist on the speed. And then I've got the Winter's Gift is another 20%. So I can, take a few psi hits myself if I do get hit. That would normally, slow my recharge. I can resist a good 60% of that. So just a lot of, sprinkled stuff in here for various defenses and some damage procs. Anything else that I took that was crazy or weird? I do have the ATO sets for Dart Burst here. I took Spider's Bites that has the Global Toxic, so that's going to give me a little bit of extra damage. I grabbed the Dominion of Arachnos. I have that chance for minus damage, and the Fear Terrorize sitting here and spin. So that's another little bit of mitigation that I can throw out there as well. I'm taking the, scoot this up a little bit. So I've got health and stamina. I've got the chance for endurance and hit points on with the Panacea Numinas, the regen recovery, performance shifter, the plus N. So this is not a very cheap build at all. As you can see, I've got lots of these procs, ATOs, but I don't have purples all over the place either. So it's expensive, but it's not going to break the bank. This isn't some $1 billion, build here. It's probably half a bill, probably about 500 or so, if you had to raw buy everything, from scratch. Then what else we got? I took Weaken Resolve, like I said, but I put the plus to hit proc in there from Analyze Weakness, so that's going to give me, another little boost to my accuracy on those hard targets. My throwaway power, like I mentioned, was the Placate. Let me move this down a little bit again so you can see it better. So Placate, I went ahead and put the, what is it called? Perfect Zinger, and I took the chance for side damage, because, yeah, Placate is not very useful as is. It's good, again, maybe for, like, a single target. But you don't have Assassin Strike, like a Stalker or whatever. So Placating left and right's not going to be super useful. But I threw in the side damage just for a little something special. But I'm also getting resistance here with Toxic and Psi. So, Psi resistance, I want to make sure I can have that all capped out, which I believe I do. Yeah, so look, my Psi resistance is 61. When I hit Mind Link, that pops up to 85 plus 91, so I'm at cap at that point. Unleash Potential, again, when I take a look, my numbers are really strong once I've got Mind Link and Unleash Potential on there. I think Unleash Potential might be sort of a sleeper type of power that's out there, or just Force of Will in general. I like this power set a lot. You've got the Weaken Resolve, that single target debuff that's pretty solid with the minus resist, minus defense, minus to hit. You got Mighty Leap, which I like as a travel power because you get Mighty Leap, right, the jump, but you also get, what is it called? Do Takeoff, which is nice. Can't see it on here, but Takeoff, let me scoot this up. Takeoff is like a foot stomp that doesn't do damage, but it does have a nice knockdown effect around you. So you could sit here and stomp the ground, and it will, knock people flying. So that's pretty cool when you're able to do that. Which is another thing you'll see I kind of go on to talk about my incarnates and how it's going to sort of flesh out this whole build. The last thing I'll say before I talk about those incarnates is that overall the end to recovery ratio is not really where I want it. Let me turn those off real quick. So if you take a look here, kind of scoot my head out of the way, maybe if I can. Scoot this up. See if I can move this up for you. There we go. Move that up. So if you take a look, the recovery is about 2.8 endurance per second. The drain is 1.5 because I like to leave Mighty Leap on. If I take Mighty Leap off, it's reasonable, 2.8 to 1. I'm always shooting for about 3 to 1 if I can get it. So this is decent, but I like to have Mighty Leap on. So the one problem I've noticed, one of the other problems I've noticed just with this build is endurance can be an issue because I do have pretty high recharge on top of that. My recharge is like almost 75%. So I'm attacking a lot. I'm draining a lot just because I got these toggles running and the powers are firing. So I can run out of juice pretty fast. That's the other reason I grabbed Unleash Potential, because when I click that, have that activated, my recovery is now at 4.7. So that's awesome. The end drain's not going to change. I can, of course, shut off Mighty Leap. Boom. Now I've got almost a 5 to 1 ratio. But even with it on, I'm looking at a 3 to 1 ratio, which I like. So Unleash Potential is great for that. That's why I like it as a option for your choices here. And then the other thing I grabbed was Wall of Force to give me another ranged attack, because all I have is Dart Burst and Poison Dart. So Wall of Force gives me another AoE cone attack. Has some knockdown with it. So I've got the knockdown from that. I've got the knockdown from the Takeoff Stompy power. So those two things combined are pretty cool. And then my last thing here is getting into the the incarnate powers. You'll see what I did with those. Because I wanted to kind of plug a couple gaps here. So if I scoot this up a little bit higher for you can see where I'm looking or what I ended up doing. I've got agility, radial paragon is my alpha. So when I click that, that's going to go ahead and give me some more recharge, right? It's going to give me some more defense. It's going to help my movement speed, the things I was talking about already. So I want to be able to stick and move. I want to be able to get in and out. So this is going to help me with mobility and getting my character to, get into a fight, get out of the fight if it's getting too crazy. It's going to give me defense across the board, right? So when I click it, you can see my defense numbers. Okay, let me zoom in on those. So when I have this activated, move that down so you can see it a little bit better. There we go. So if you take a look at the defense numbers there in that purple color, right now everything is clicked, including Mind Link. So my positional defenses are crazy. I've got 91.5 on melee, ranged, and AoE are 75, right? So those numbers get off the charts once I'm able to click all these things. Even with Unleash Potential and Mind Link off, I still got solid melee defense, right? Range and AoE are not really where I want them, but I'm going to have either Mind Link or Unleash Potential active at some time because my recharge on, see, Mind Link, if I take a look at that, right? My recharge is 96 seconds or so, so about a minute and a half. The duration's about 90 seconds. So I'm only down about 7 seconds between Mind Links. And then even if I am down with that, I have Unleash Potential. If I lock that in place, the recharge, that's much longer. It's 10 minutes, but I've got it down to about, 4 minutes. Yeah, so 60 times 4 is 240. So it's about 4 minutes. It goes for 60 seconds. So it's got a 3 minutes down, 1 minute up. So between those two, I've got my defense boost covered for sure. Okay, so I'm not worried about defenses overall. I have run into some catastrophic defense collapses, which anybody who plays a defense-based character knows that can happen or has experienced it. So I've got that going on. I'm going to take a look at my incarnates again. Oops, don't do that. So with that's agility activated. I grabbed diamagnetic as the interface debuff. This is giving me the minus hit, minus regen, because I do have those two effects in some of my other powers already, especially the minus regen. So I can get a lot more minus regen now if I'm able to start just blasting away with the attack. So each of my attacks has a chance to proc the minus regen, minus 10%. So if you remember, I was getting minus regen from Dart Burst, which was 35. I was getting it from Poison Dart. That was 35. I've got Weaken Resolve, which is giving me some minus 10%, damage resistance. And now if I'm able to sit here and start stacking the diamagnetic regen, another 10. I think it stacks up to 5 times, and the duration on this is 8 seconds. Let's say you can get 3 procs in 8 seconds or so. So that's, 30%. So I can regen debuff pretty well once I'm, at level 50 and have my incarnates activated. Plus, I've got the to hit debuffing that this is going to also add to it. I'm trying to see where those numbers are. I don't think it shows it on here. I think, I'll pull up the incarnate window real quick, get that number for you. The diamagnetic, if I look at that, yeah, it's going to proc a minus 5% to hit for that 8.3 seconds. So I can sit here and stack that on top of the smoke grenade I'm chucking out there. Plus I'm stacking the Weaken Resolve has the minus to hit. So again, I can probably stack maybe 3 of these in those 8 seconds or something like that. So that's minus 15% to hit. With that, you throw in your smoke grenades debuff. That was looking at, turn on the effects, we're looking at about 6%. So we got, what's that, 20-some percent at that point. And then you got Weaken Resolve is giving you minus 3. So you're maybe minus 25%. You can realistically stack minus to hits on a target at least. if not multiple targets. So that's a cool combination there. Increases your mitigation like I was talking about. Then I also grabbed, for mitigation purposes, I went ahead and took the melee radial. I'm looking at this in my hybrid. This gives regen, defense, and status protection. I don't really need the status protection, but the regen is nice because that's my sort of Achilles heel. Is if I do start taking damage, I don't have a way to heal without heal power. So if I have accelerated regeneration, I'm good. Plus, it's giving me a defense bonus on top of that. Now, the only problem with this power is, well, you got to be in melee, right? So it's not going to necessarily help me against ranged attacks if I can't get up to them, or I don't have a lot of people within melee range. I think is targets up to 9 people with tier 4, and it's going to give you regen of what, 30% per target for 10 seconds. The defense is variable, depends on who's next to you, but it's, you know, whatever. It's a few more percent. So if I'm in melee range with my Mind Link and the Unleashed Potential and all my normal defenses, and then I've got the melee radial kicking in, I can't really be hit aside from, you know, some critical, you know, lucky shot that comes in. It's highly survivable in melee range. It's the ranged attacks that are, again, the problem there. The other thing about this power that you want to watch out for is, even though it's great at regen and defense, it comes with a taunt effect. So you'll see that over here. So if you're trying to be stalkery, placating, hiding, and you walk into a group with this hybrid toggle, you're going to start taunting people. So be aware of that. Your stealth, it doesn't matter. They're going to start seeing you and want to attack you. But it's kind of amusing. I think it messes with the AI. If you're taunting, then you're placating them, and they're stealth. Then you got the minus perception. I think it messes with the AI a little bit. The minus speed, minus recharge that you're throwing at them. They get a little bit confused by all the debuffs that you're chucking at them. Because that was one of the goals I was shooting for. It's just a bunch of confusing debuffs on these enemies as I could. You know, just mess with them. Then I've got, for my Destiny, I took the heal, regen, rebirth, so that'll help me survive. So if I am taking a bunch of damage and, you know, my other powers aren't helping me at this point, or maybe, you know, melee has been shut off, you know, unleashed potentials crashed, mind links crashed, whatever, I still have rebirth to give me heal and a regen boost. That's sort of your emergency button. Or even if it's a proactive click, like I need to get my regen kicking because I'm about to go in there, you know, I might click it early in a fight. Then I've got the Seers as the lore. They have the ability to heal you. They have some nice buffing that they throw out there. Plus they're creepy and they kind of just go with, you know, Arachnos, obviously, because they're Seers. But I like the Seers. The one gets in a melee and starts punching with Psy Fist. It's pretty cool. And then the other thing I mentioned before about the whole knock-up stuff with my little foot stomp there from Mighty Leap, and then the knockdown with Wall of Force, I took Mighty Radial because I love this power, especially on a melee character. You get in a melee and you just do a big old ground pound, and everybody splash gets knocked up in the air. And it's great damage and it's great mitigation because by the time they get back up on their feet, you're like doing spin on them, you're eviscerating them. You know, they don't know what the hell's going on. You foot stomp them down with Mighty Leap again. You know, throw a wall of, then you jump out, throw a wall of force, you can knock them down again. So you'll kind of see a lot of that stuff in my tests here. All right, I think I blabbed way too long on this build, but I wanted to showcase and share what my thinking was and what the plan and strategy was. So there you go. That is the Mids build for Turpentine, level 50 Night Widow. All right, I'm going to kill the video here, and I'm going to come back with part 2, which is going to be some solo adventures to show you strategies and tactics in actual play. All right, peace out. Check you in the next video.